Hi everyone, I'm super excited to host Farooq Bacha, founder of Dry Desert. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you, Mayur, for having me.
So, Farooq, tell us your story. Like, what led to you starting Dry Desert? Where were you working before?
For sure. Yeah, so I graduated from university back in 2019. I was studying international business at the time, and upon graduating, I joined a SaaS company. So that was like my first experience working in like an actual full-time job. So at the time, for that specific SaaS company, they were selling a lot of these like low-ticket B2C type products, so price points around $300, $500, and that was kind of where I got like you know, actual real life experience, like marketing such products. And even though like they are like low ticket products, they were actually quite challenging to sell. So there was there was a really like, big learning curve at the very beginning. I worked in that company for around 2 years, started getting the hang of things, and I decided to just, quit my job at the time and decided to launch my own agency. I did that with a person that also worked in that same company, and we decided to kind of both quit our jobs, and we decided to kind of start that agency together. And yeah, we just kind of leveraged the experience that we had gained in that last like 2 years and built on top of that. So we signed a bunch of other different clients that also had that were like SaaS companies with low ticket SaaS products, and we had a quite good success at the time. We made our clients over like $2.5 million in sales, and basically the way we did it was just we kind of built marketing funnels for them, and so we did that by funneling traffic from Twitter and Discord and kind of following that into like an email marketing sequence, and eventually converted subscribers on there. Afterwards, the specific industry that we were in, it kind of like died out around 2 years after we started that agency. So we decided to pivot. My business partner moved on to a completely different industry, and I kind of stayed in marketing, but I decided to focus on like building LinkedIn funnels. And so that's kind of what I've been doing for the like past 2 years. And it's been going well. Like my agency, we build like LinkedIn funnels for a lot of the different B2B companies. So whether you run a SaaS company, whether you run an agency, maybe you're a consultant, we can help with helping you like grow a personal brand on there and actually monetize the audience that you have. We work with people like Daniel Fazio, Andre Hakel Jr., Ayman Arab. These are a couple of like internet marketers that people watching may or may not know. We have a bunch of other clients as well from a variety of different industries. And yeah, it's been going well so far.
Such an incredible journey. I'm curious, so on the website, I found this LinkedIn funnel diagram, or it's multi-channel. Can you explain a bit and give us an overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I like to always say about marketing funnels in a very general sense is a lot of times, like, let's use LinkedIn as an example here. A lot of times when people want to monetize a platform like LinkedIn, the first thing that they start doing is they go on LinkedIn and they just start posting content. And so their idea of building a marketing funnel is to just gain momentum on the platform, build an audience, and start posting and getting a bunch of engagement and eventually leveraging that. The problem with such way of thinking is that, first of all, like if you don't have a clear plan of what you're doing, like a full marketing funnel, even if this whole strategy did work and you start posting content and like, let's assume from day one, you instantly started getting traction. The problem is when you don't build the necessary foundation for your marketing funnel, even if you do get the audience from like LinkedIn. Even if you do like build your audience on LinkedIn, you start getting that traction. If you don't have a funnel to then actually funnel people through to get people to different journeys in your actual sales cycle, then you kind of would have like wasted all that time building an audience, but you're not leveraging that. And so what we do is we make sure that anytime we take a client, when we're building them a marketing funnel, we always start from the bottom to the top. So that means that we look at your current like customer journey and we see, okay, your objective is to eventually get somebody to book a call with you. Well, what happens when somebody books a call with you? What are the emails that they're receiving before that call or after that call? How is the overall experience? We start there. And then we look at the stage before that. That's usually your website. Well, how does that look? Does it have all the necessary elements to then convert people who are like kind of visiting your landing page? Because imagine just how much of a waste of time and effort it would be if you put all that time into actually building a LinkedIn audience and you try to funnel them to a website, but the website doesn't convert properly. Or maybe you got them to book a call, but they weren't receiving the right sales assets and emails before your call to really get to know who you are and what it is that you provide. Well, just imagine like how much of like people that you could have potentially converted into clients who you would have just kind of missed out on because you didn't build the right funnel. So that's why we make sure that at the very beginning, what we do is we build all the necessary sales assets for you. So whether that's your pre-call email sequence, whether that's your landing page, your VSL, or any sort of like lead magnet that you need, we build all of that way before we even start managing your LinkedIn. Only once we're done with that do we then start taking over with LinkedIn. So we may start optimizing your LinkedIn profile at first. We then will start producing content for you, sending out connection requests as well. And then eventually, we'll start with like reaching out to people through LinkedIn personalized outreach. So that's kind of like the overall journey that we take all our clients through for like the marketing funnel.
I really like the whole structured approach and the framework. Curious to know your thought, like what are the key differentiating parameters of a low performing funnel and exceptional funnel?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, I think this is really important. Like a lot of times when people want to start building a LinkedIn funnel and, they start like putting out content, the problem is that the mindset that people have when it comes to posting the content is whereas usually there's a lot of like flaws. And so what I mean by that is a lot of times people try to approach LinkedIn as in like, all right, I'm currently not posting on LinkedIn and I need to start posting like every day because some influencer told me I got to post every day. So that's what I'm going to do. And so they just go on Chat GPT. They'll generate like a LinkedIn post. Maybe they'll send like a 5-minute, 10-minute like audio voice note of what it is exactly that they want to write about. LinkedIn creates some sort of post. They read through that. They think that's good. They just post it and they see no traction on that post. And then they keep doing that for like a month or two. And they just see no results whatsoever. And so they're like, all right, LinkedIn just doesn't work for me, or I'm too late to the LinkedIn trend. So I'm just going to not bother trying. Now, there are certain people that may think, all right, I clearly don't have this figured out. So I'm going to talk to somebody who has it figured out. And so they may come to me or to any other LinkedIn agency and have a discussion in terms of like what they're doing wrong. And usually it just takes like one single like discussion to understand what are the mistakes that you're making. And a lot of times when it comes specifically to LinkedIn content, it's just that a lot of times the problem is like a lot of people, they're not even posting content that has any value, right? So there's no depth in the actual content. It's very surface level knowledge that you could almost Google and be able to find that answer. So that's like the first mistake. But the mistake that happens even before that is like a lot of times people will think that the first focus is to start posting content, but you need to have an audience. You need to have people that are actually consuming that content, because if you don't have that, then what's the point of posting the best types of content? There's just so much that you could do before you like with actual content before you realize that it's just like if you don't have the people that are consuming that content, it's almost like no point. So that's kind of like where it's really important to make sure that you're sending out the right connection request. You're talking and engaging with different people at the very start to get that initial momentum, the audience that you need to start pushing your content a bit. If you don't have that necessary layer, you're already like at a massive disadvantage. And so really a lot of times when it comes to the difference between like a funnel that is meh and then a funnel that's exceptional, at least at the very beginning, it all has to do with like the basic principles. It's understanding the platform that you're on and how to leverage the platform itself. And if you don't have the knowledge of how that platform works, it's almost impossible to build best funnel. And the reason I'm focused so much on the content aspect is because it's kind of like the very beginning of this funnel. Because no matter how good your funnel is, if you're not able to funnel traffic into it, then you don't really have a funnel, right? Like you have the structure of it, the skeleton, but you don't have traffic. You don't get any people that are actually going to be going through the different stages. And so you usually build up that traffic through content, but it's about knowing how to kind of approach content in the specific platform that you're on. And so this is where a lot of people, they make that mistake of not taking the time to understand the platform.
I see. And you mentioned about specialization in LinkedIn funnel. So in this diagram, I also see like YouTube Shorts. So is it it's funneling traffic to the LinkedIn through this medium, and also on LinkedIn when you say traffic through content, is it organic or does it also involve ads?
Yeah. So so it's hard to put this into a diagram without it kind of looking a bit too confusing, but the way you want to think of a funnel, at least the different sort of social media platforms, is think of it as like a web. So like a lot of our clients, they may already have like an existing YouTube channel. And so we may take the clips from those YouTube videos and to use those for, let's say, LinkedIn or for the content of LinkedIn. And then in the actual LinkedIn post, we may then funnel that traffic to the YouTube channel. And then in the YouTube video itself, there may be a link to a lead magnet or a website. And so we're kind of interlinking all these different like social media platforms and sales assets. So that's how you want to think about your funnel. Now, obviously, if you're getting started right now, you don't want to be all over the place. So you're better off just starting on a single platform. So maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Twitter, depending on what you think you can start, like whatever platform you think you can start getting like good momentum at the very beginning. And then over time, you start building up. But yeah, for a lot of our clients who already kind of are in more advanced stages, they may already have a following on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We start thinking about how we can interlink all these different platforms together to drive traffic from one platform to another. Especially for like YouTube, it's a really good combination combining LinkedIn with YouTube. So you have your LinkedIn content, it's getting traffic, and then at the very end of that LinkedIn post, you may link to a YouTube video where then it gives them more context about what it is that you're talking about. And that's usually how you build more trust with your audience and eventually incentivize them to book a call with you. Maybe not now, but at least in the future. But the more you can kind of repeat this cycle of like LinkedIn to YouTube, LinkedIn to X, LinkedIn to your website, the more you can kind of take people on different journeys, eventually they will book a call with you. And if they don't, what we'll do a lot of times is, LinkedIn, it'll tell you when somebody views your profile or likes a post or commented to receive a lead magnet. We'll then combine outreach with that to then actually see, all right, what is this person really after? And a lot of times people, they need that extra push before they book a call. Like there's very few people that will actually read your LinkedIn post and then book a call right away. But if you know that they engaged with that LinkedIn post or they viewed your profile right after you posted that, it's a very strong signal if you can reach out to that person in the right moment and ask them like, all right, like the right sets of questions to gauge their interest in your services. Eventually, you could prompt them to book a call with you. But you want to make it sure that the whole outreach is very personalized as well. That's super important. You don't want to automate it because you're handicapping yourself for no reason whatsoever. No. So you either do it yourself or you have an appointment setter who's kind of tracking these different social signals that gauges the interests of these people. And then you just reach out, try to get them to book a call.
Got it. Because that was one of the question I was gonna ask is like, how do you keep track of engagement? Because like say a potential prospect could engage with your content now or maybe 2 months later and then converts into a sale. Then how do you track those customer journey?
Yeah. At least when it comes to LinkedIn, there's like different tools that we like to use. So I'll give you one tool, for instance. It's called Trigify. Highly recommend people get that tool. If you don't know what that tool is, it's essentially like a social listening tool. And what it does is that it tracks your posts and the posts of other people. It sees who's liking and who's commenting on those posts. It builds like this lead list for you, and then you can filter through that lead list. So you may say that you want to find all the business owners who are liking the post of somebody who's talking about YouTube, for instance. Like, so we have a client, his name is Ayman, right? He runs a YouTube content agency. We'll track all his competitors and see the people that are talking about YouTube, who's engaging with their post. We'll see who's engaging with Ayman's post. We'll put those all in the lead list. We take out the people who are not potential leads, and we just are left now with people who may already have had a YouTube channel before, or like they have one, but they're not active on the platform. And so we'll reach out to those people, knowing that they're engaging with YouTube related content, but they're not active on YouTube. It may signal that they may be interested in getting back to YouTube. And so a lot of times, if you reach out to that person the right time, seeing that they just liked a post related to YouTube or a sequence of posts, and that's the cool thing about Trigify, it shows you like how many of your recent posts did they like and which posts did they like or comment on. If they commented on a lead magnet giveaway, then it's very clear. Like, for example, for Ayman, we posted once like a starter guide, like how to start your YouTube channel. So it's a very clear, strong indication that if somebody's commenting for that, they at least have YouTube somewhere in the back of their minds. And so the cool thing is when they comment on your post, they like several of your posts, they already know who you are. So you don't even have to reach out to them and build up like fake rapport. Like you could just get straight to the point. Like, after sending them the lead magnet, you could then tell them, like, you could ask questions like related to, hey, do you plan on starting your YouTube channel? Or if you've noticed, like a lot of times we'll do our research beforehand and see like if they already started a YouTube channel before, we may then ask, like, hey, we saw that you have a YouTube channel, you're just not active on there. Did you plan on getting back to posting on there? And a lot of times people will be like, yeah, I do. Or maybe I do, but maybe in the future. And whatever the response is, we input those different people into a CRM. And then we're always like tracking those leads. So we have people maybe that say that I could be interested in YouTube next quarter. Well, good. We input those people into like a CRM and we reach out to them the next quarter. And so that's kind of how you want to think about it. And in the meantime, you're nurturing those leads with your YouTube content in the case of Ayman, or whatever it is that your LinkedIn content is. And so you continuously build trust with them. So that's kind of how you start tying content with outreach. And for people who don't know, when it comes to the LinkedIn algorithm, if you're DMing somebody, then the likelihood of your post then popping up on their feed increases as well. And especially if they're engaging with that. So it becomes like positive kind of reinforcement. Your potential leads are teaching the LinkedIn algorithm that they're interested in your stuff. And so it becomes like this kind of like sequence where you're always popping up on their feeds. They're always reading your YouTube posts. And then, like they're receiving messages from you on an on-off basis. So all of that together is how you have to think about the idea of like generating leads from LinkedIn. It's not always like a very linear process where it's like, oh, I reach out to somebody and I have a couple of questions asked and then I just book a call. No, you have to think about it more long term. Sometimes certain leads may only book a call after 3 months, after 6 months, and some people may book a call straight away. We've had people who just saw one of Ayman's posts or any of our clients' posts and right away they just ask, like they'll say, hey, I'm interested in this service. Could you tell me more? Right. So it depends on where the person is in the journey, but you want to make sure that you always, you're always like present on the platform and you're always reaching out to the people at the right time. Do that for long enough and it's going to be very hard to not see results with LinkedIn.
That answer was packed with insight. Like this is not very commonly talked about. So thanks a lot for sharing. I was wondering who are the people you learned from?
Yeah. I mean, one of the people that I've learned a lot from is Daniel Fazio, who is my mentor in Client Assistant and Ascension, which were both part of this coaching program, who's also my client. And it's kind of funny, I always say this because Daniel's a client of mine and we handle all his content for LinkedIn and we even helped him a bit with Twitter at the time before. It kind of forces us to always consume his content and to kind of think the way Daniel thinks. And so that's kind of been like cool in a sense that it's got me to become a better marketer and a better business owner because a lot of Daniel's content is about how do you get more leads for your agency. And so he's been a big inspiration. He's taught me a lot in terms of how to grow an agency and then how to just overall how to market and sell yourself online. And so, yeah, he's been a good inspiration. There's been well, I always say this. I think this is part of what I enjoy about a lot about my specific like job is like as a person that's kind of doing LinkedIn growth and ghostwriting being one of the several services that we offer as part of like the LinkedIn LinkedIn growth package, it forces you to have conversations with these different business owners, and you have to extract a lot of different insights. So in one way or another, we're always learning a lot about different types of niches and different types of like growth strategies. So, like I used Ayman as an example before, and so much more about YouTube as a platform and how to market yourself, just because like I'm talking to Ayman all the time, and we're writing content for him all the time, and we're doing outreach. And so you kind of get a deeper understanding of that. So in a way, every client that we onboard, they teach us a lot. As much as like we end up bringing them value, they bring us like indirect value as well, in terms of like actually teaching us new stuff and new strategies.
Amazing. Now I'm very curious to know, like, Daniel receives so many offers for people to collaborate. How did you bag him?
Yeah, I get asked this all the time. And so I remember once seeing a tweet where Daniel had mentioned that he would never outsource like marketing to anybody, especially when it comes to like paid ads and all that. Like he likes to be in control of all of that. He doesn't like to give kind of control away at all to that, because it just starts limiting him. It just starts, it adds a lot of unnecessary loops. That's the way he thinks about stuff. And so I knew that after having like read those posts and kind of knowing Daniel for some time. And so I decided, when I reached out to him, I remember at the time, that was like over a year ago, where I noticed that Daniel was posting on LinkedIn like on and off, but when he was posting, he wasn't posting any sort of like carousels or any sort of like infographics. And so I reached out to him asking him if he would be interested in having us just create the carousels. Because I was like, all right, if I'm not going to be able to handle Daniel's LinkedIn, I might as well just try to get him to actually work with us on the carousels, because I wanted to add more people on, like as like case studies and more like known figures in the space as part of our portfolio. And so I was like, it's better working with Daniel on something small than not working with him on anything at all. And that was at the time I was having conversations with his business partner, Andre, as well. Andre was already kind of like started to get interest in our LinkedIn services, because I kept talking to him about it. And so kind of like these conversations were happening in parallel. So when I did eventually pitch to Daniel that like, hey, would you be interested in having us design carousels for you? He was very interested, actually. But then he realized, and he asked me like, well, what would it take for you to actually just manage my entire LinkedIn? And I was like, I was kind of caught a bit off guard at the time. But it was a clear pain point for him, because LinkedIn wasn't like, and it still isn't like their core platform for generating leads, but it's a good platform for them to nurture leads. There's a lot of people like that will sign up to Client Ascension. Like they will say like, yeah, I've been consuming your stuff on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Like it's clear that these platforms help build up that trust, so that people eventually will become clients of Daniel when the time is right. But it wasn't, once again, like their main acquisition channel if you compare that to paid ads, or at the time Twitter was big for them, and cold email. So he wanted to just have somebody to at least help handle the platform, or like his presence on there, and just kind of put it in, just have somebody handle it for him, and him not having to worry about that. And yeah, so that's kind of like how we started with that. And I think the key to working with people like Daniel, if you want to retain them, is by being able to work and give them a very hands-off type of experience if they want that. And what I mean by that is, people like Daniel, they don't want to be babying you, holding your hands all the time, telling you like, oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? They don't want to check over like the stuff that you do. So for example, in our case, we're posting content for Daniel all the time. He never reviews any of the stuff that we post. He hasn't reviewed any of our stuff since we started. Like the first week or two, I think we were sending over the stuff. And then he just told us like, all right, you know what? You could just keep posting, whatever. Every now and then, like he'll say like, all right, this specific topic, I don't want to talk about this on LinkedIn or whatever. Fine. But besides that, he's typically like super happy. And you can't go wrong with people like Daniel. I'll tell you why. It's because we're not creating content from scratch. And this is something that's super important to understand about LinkedIn ghostwriting and LinkedIn growth in general. For all our clients, we don't create the content from thin air. We're usually talking to our clients to gather information from them, or we're leveraging their existing assets. So whether they have a YouTube channel, they have videos that they're posting on there, whether they have, email list, for example. And so we're taking the content from there and we're just repurposing it and having it fit the LinkedIn format. because this is a lot, like a lot of people where they struggle as well, is they have the necessary information. They just don't know how to present it in a way that's LinkedIn friendly, a way that the LinkedIn algorithm is going to be able to rank it ahead of other posts. And so, yeah, like, and getting Daniel as a client has been a big asset for us, because a lot of times we hop on calls with people who know Daniel, and the calls are just very smooth usually, because it's just like, oh, you handle LinkedIn for Daniel, let's just work together. You don't have to do much of like trust building, because the trust is already there. And we've kind of capitalized on this like even further with time, because there's Ayman as well, Ayman Arab, who's like the poster child of, I call him child, he's like 20 years old, but like, I mean, that's like kind of like the nickname that people gave him, like the golden boy of client ascension, because Daniel used him a lot for marketing related purposes. Like, hey, look at this kid. He went from $0 to $100,000 in like a year. So they've been leveraging his presence. And so once we got Ayman as a client, it kind of built up on that. So now we're handling LinkedIn for Daniel, for Andre, for Christian, for their partner Lucas, for Ayman, and other people in client ascension. And so as you start getting more of these people, when you go and you talk to potential leads that know any of these people or several of these people, they're like, oh, wow, you work with all these people. It instantly becomes a conversation of, all right, like, what's the price? What it is exactly that you offer? They don't question whether you're going to be able to get them the results or not, because it's already assumed that you're getting them results. And even if they still want further validation, we show them, like we say, like, hey, for example, Daniel, we've got him like over 1 million impressions in just the last year. Right. And so that's like one of the several case studies that we have. Ayman, for instance, like in the first 10 days of working with us, he closed like a $6,000 deal. That was after like a year of him not getting anything from LinkedIn. So these are like some of the case studies that we leverage to then further grow our clientele.
I really appreciate the whole transparency, and you're very honest about it. Last question before I do a rapid fire. If you were to teach a masterclass in university, what topic would you teach, and what are some areas in that class we'll cover?
Interesting question. One of the fascinations that I have, because I know we do a lot of LinkedIn, but one of the fascinations that I have specifically is with social media algorithms. And, like, let's take LinkedIn as an example here, since that's a platform that I'm, quite familiar with. The algorithm is just extremely, extremely sophisticated. Even the people at LinkedIn, they wouldn't understand the algorithm, because it's just, they've always, like, LinkedIn as a company is always adds more and more layers to it, to a point where no single human being is able to comprehend how this algorithm works, which is a bit freaky if you think about it, but at the same time, it's kind of like a cool mystery situation. And so what I like about the algorithms in general is a lot of times you can hypothesize, you can theorize, and you can test different sort of things. You can experiment with the platform. There's always like these, even if you have like a bit of extra knowledge about how the algorithm works, that gives you a massive edge in the market. That could be the difference between not being seen to just getting hundreds or maybe even thousands of extra people who are like engaging with your post, and even hundreds of thousands of people who are like actually viewing that post. And so I've liked to, a lot of times, the way my clients, potential clients that become interested in working with me, is when I start telling them about some of the experiments that we've ran on LinkedIn and some of the discoveries that we found. And I'll show them, like, I'll usually share my screen. I'll open one of my clients' LinkedIn profiles, and I'll show them, like, hey, look, we ran this experiment, and I'll run them through the exact process. Maybe it'll be like a 10, 15-minute explanation. But eventually, I kind of walk them through the whole journey of how we found that potential angle. And it could be something as simple as, like, we added a specific type of image to a post, and that led to the post becoming the client's most the top performing content for that specific client, and got them like hundreds of followers and got them several people booking calls with them. So I like the idea of like running these different experiments and kind of talking to people about these different experiments. And so I could see this being some sort of like, elective type of university course where you're just having people run these different experiments and see what it is that you could find. What are the different gaps that you can find in the LinkedIn algorithm? Because once you find these different gaps, not gaps, like once you find these different like exploitations, if you'd like to say, what we've done a lot of times is like, we'll figure something out about the algorithm with one client, and we'll just take that formula and apply it to another client of ours, and it'll work as well. And so it'll be pretty cool because, it gives us the massive edge for us and our clients. Anytime we onboard a new client, we don't start technically from zero, because there's certain things you can leverage from day one to already kind of like skip your way to the top. Obviously, you have to still always, like, there's the fundamentals. You can't skip those. Like, you always have to do, there's certain basics that you just have to follow. But once you kind of get all that figured out, then you can start playing a bit with the algorithm. So I enjoy that a lot about the platform. And once again, because it's such a mystery and nobody can truly figure it out, it always makes it fun, because every day you're learning something, and then every day the platform is changing. So LinkedIn sometimes is giving you like extra hints about how the platform is working. So you experiment based off of like the input that they give you, and you start realizing like certain things about the platform. So yeah, that's a fun topic for me.
Yeah, I can clearly see your obsession with figuring out the edge. And for some people, if it feels like play and not work, you're constantly experimenting, and that's great to know. So in the rapid fire, you have 5 to 10 seconds to answer the question, and you have to keep it like super brief, few words. Okay.
Sure, let's do it.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Sushi, anything that's sushi related, I love.
Which city is in your travel bucket list?
Such a good question. I would say Switzerland is next.
Your favorite movie?
Movie. God, there's so many. There's a lot of different finance related ones. I'll just go with what's it called? Margin call. Margin call, yeah.
And that's a good one. An advice you would give to your 18-year-old self?
Excellent question. I'll just say be patient. Once you find something that you're good at, you're getting momentum in that, stick to that, do that for long enough, and it's gonna be impossible for you to fail at that.
3 words your best friend would describe you as.
Yeah. Uh, Funny, charismatic, and tall.
Any book which made a big impact in your life?
Anything Robert Greene related. 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, Art of Seduction, Laws of Human Nature. This guy is an absolute beast. I love him.
What is one thing most people don't know about you but would be surprised to know?
Good question. I guess there's a bunch, but yeah, sometimes people mistake my energy for me being like super extroverted, but a lot of times I tend to lean more towards introversion rather than extroversion.
Oh. Farooq, anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you would like to end on that note?
Yeah, I'll just say for anybody that's planning on starting a LinkedIn personal brand, just make sure that before you do start and you put the energy into that like you actually assess if you should start LinkedIn personal brand like right now at the stage of where you are. Just because everybody's talking about the platform and just because people are seeing results on there doesn't mean that it's necessarily the right time for you to start on there. If you're really early stage and you're specific like initiative, whether you're running an agency or a SaaS, sometimes maybe you just have to stick to, just doing outreach rather than focusing too much maybe on content and building your personal brand. It never hurts to build a personal brand, of course. There's a lot to gain, but there's an opportunity cost when you're first starting out. So a lot of times my job when I get people on calls with me and they want to start LinkedIn, I'm trying to challenge them as to whether they really should be starting LinkedIn or not. And sometimes I'll try to tell people like, you shouldn't be doing LinkedIn now, do this instead. Why would you invest the time, effort, and resources into that when you should be doing that right now at this stage? So just assess when is the right time. Try to not to fall for the hype of like, oh, this platform is booming, everybody's on there, my competitors are there. Like, wait, like maybe that's not the right time for you right now.
Mm. Again, banger insight. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mayur.